Hello and welcome to Ocean Witness, the series where we grapple with some of the biggest issues relating to our seas. I'm Sophie Duca.
And I'm Simon Watt. And today we're looking at industrial fishing.
Industrial fishing. Sounds scary.
Sounds fishy.
I think you're really going to make a splash this season with your fish puns.
Hopefully we'll get people hooked.
Let's put those fish jokes to the seabed.
Agreed.
Coming up on today's show, we'll explore the human cost of industrial fishing, we'll see Greenpeace activists confront a super trawler, and we'll learn all about the amazing Manta Ray with Andrea, Queen of Mantas.
But first, we're heading to West Africa.
This is a story of plunder and a fishing community struggling to survive due to the destructive fishing practices of foreign companies.
Mon nom c'est Alassane Gueye, j'habite à Bargny. La pêche pour moi signifie ma vie parce que j'ai été baptisé par l'argent de la pêche. Oui, le poisson est la principale source de nourriture car la quasi-totalité des Sénégalais vivent dans le secteur de la pêche avec un besoin en protéines animales de 28 à 29 kg par personne et par année. La situation des salitiers, des usines de farine de poisson et d'huile de poisson tue les communautés de pêche à grande feu parce que la plupart des femmes transformatrices rencontrent des difficultés, de même que les pêcheurs artisanaux.
ndax usine bi bu ñëwee fii ci suñu siin bii dina yàq suñu liggéey dina yàq suñu koom-koom ndax ñun ay jigéen rek lañu siin rek la ñuy liggéey siin nag jën koo dégg xam ni jën a tax ñu koy wax te usine bii ñu ne usine mu kaar bàyyiwul dara ndax dégg naa butit sax da koy jënd butitu jën bu nëpp da koy jënd usine boobu moom bu taxawee fii lu ñuy yokk lu ñuy wàññi te d'accorduñ ci tey bëgguñu ko tey bëgguñu ci ëllëg ñun jigéeni siin di
waaw man maa ngi tudd Maymuna Sabali nekk fii ci tan bi Joal Fadiouth kan usine bi mu tëj ña fi jóge usine bi ñun waa Joal Fadiouth ñu ngi jooy na fi jóge te ñëpp a koy jooy nag fii ba Mbuur ñëpp a koy jooy.
J'aimerais dire au monde sur la situation actuelle que les problèmes s'accentuent de plus en plus et que la quasi-totalité des jeunes qui s'activent dans le milieu de la pêche ont tendance à quitter le secteur parce qu'ils ne trouvent plus les revenus nécessaires pour nourrir leur famille.
mënatuñu toog seen dëkk mais dañuy dugg si ay gaal dem bitim réew loolu moo li causé immigration clandestine loolu bokk na si. pêche bi amul solution amul dara lu neex waay def bato heure bu ne la ñuy dugg si géej Sénégal di ko piller guddi ak bëccëg boo demee Mauritanie tey.
Les autres communautés doivent se réunir. C'est en se réunissant qu'on peut atteindre le maximum de résultats en termes de sensibilisation, de combat, pour que les communautés qui s'activent dans ce milieu ne soient plus vulnérables.
And now, to tell us more about the situation, we are joined from Greenpeace Africa by Dr. Ibrahima Sissé. Hello, Ibrahima.
Hello.
Hello.
Why are the local people in West Africa going short of fish?
The situation in West Africa is a bit complicated because the fish is going to export first, is going to fish meal plants, and is going to all this. What is not evaluated is the illegal fishing activity in the region. So you have a lot of vessels that are fishing without having right to access to fish. You have fish meal industry that in the region, they're about 50. It's a lot for the stock here. So it's a huge number of fish stock that is going outside going outside the region, while the community cannot have access to fish. And all this situation, you add the issue of climate change, because the temperature of sea is growing. You have some change on the dispersion of the fish stock. Scientific studies shows that the artisanal fishery activity is 40 times more important than industrial one. It means when you evaluate the chain of value from the small scale boat where you have around 10 people, you have the family behind in the beach waiting to take the fish to process it, to sell it in the market. You have people take it in the inland. So all these people depend on this activity. So the impact is huge compared to the vessels, to the industrial vessel. So what we do in Greenpeace, we try to show that all these people depend on the activity on this small scale boat.
To dive deeper into that, how do you think we could fix this situation? What work is Greenpeace undertaking?
As Greenpeace, we are requesting from the government to publish the list of vessels fishing in Senegal, so we can know who is fishing and who has right to fish in Senegal. We are also requesting the shutdown of fish meal factories, and to be clear that fish meal factories cannot use fresh fish or fish that is for human consumption to process it to make fish meal and fish oil to feed livestock and this aquaculture and pigs, etc. in Europe and in Asia. And we say this is not ethical. Because when they come to the market, they put a better price, so the fishermen prefer to sell their product to the fish meal factory, and the women stay without having access to fish. So this is not a good situation, and it impacts a lot to these women because they used to have this activity to have some money for their family, to support their kids, etc. We are also requesting a decree to recognize women processors' jobs in Senegal, so they can have the same right like everybody working in any institution. The last thing is we think that the West Africa region needs a management body to ensure that the share stock and the illegal activities, the illegal fishing in the region can decline and can stop, and the share stock will be managed sustainably for the benefit of community and people that depend on them.
Thank you so much, Ibrahima, for telling us about the situation in West Africa.
Now we're going to get to grips with a particular kind of fishing vessel, the super trawler. Sophie, what's a super trawler?
So, super trawlers are fishing ships that are over 100 meters long, and they fish by dragging huge nets behind them. And this form of fishing, well, it's horribly destructive.
Yeah, super is not a good enough word. They should call it large and awful. This summer, the Esperanza headed to the North Sea off the coast of the UK to send a very powerful message.
Super trawlers could be described as floating fish factories. Their idea is to go out, suck up hundreds of tons of fish, process them, pack them up, and keep fishing. In actual fact, you could fit about a dozen jumbo jets into one net. You have to stand back and think about that, just how much fish these vessels are capable of catching.
Oh, it's like a pack of wolves surrounding a three-legged caribou.
Tracking these vessels down now, thankfully, is actually much easier than it used to be. Not surprisingly, we found the Helen Marie fishing like there's no tomorrow. We're going to come up close to her, see how much gear she has in the water. So, are you aware that you are fishing in a marine protected area? That we are asking you formally now to retrieve your fishing gear and vacate this marine protected area. Can you copy that transmission over? We will be taking non-violent direct action against your vessel to stop this industrialized, destructive fishing. I understand that you are not responding. That is Esperanza standing by in 60. Out. Okay.
Deck bridge, that's understood. We are still 2.3 miles away from the Helen Mary.
When we think about fishing, about fishermen, about how brave they are to go to sea, it's actually come a long way from a roughy-tufty guy in a pipe and a small boat bobbing around on the seas. These things are spaceships. They have technology behind them. They can hoover up thousands of tons of fish in one go. There is simply no comparison to them and what has gone before. Yeah.
Go, 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 go!
Come around this side now. The world is 70% oceans. We just simply can't afford to allow this to happen any longer. We need to get tough. We need to have legislation with teeth, and we need to stop these modern day pirates, because that's in actual fact what they are. They are strip mining our oceans bare.
That was intense.
Yeah, but did you know that you can hunt for super trawlers from the comfort of your own home?
No, how might I do that?
Well, we can do it hands-free thanks to our top-tier technical team using the power of the internet.
And as we've been looking at West Africa, if we could just zoom in there.
Sure, let's go
Mauritania.
to just off the coast of Mauritania, and you can see a bunch of super trawlers.
Many of them are flying what's called flags of convenience. So that means they might be owned or crewed by people or companies from one country, but they're registered somewhere else, which makes it very difficult to get a full picture of what they're doing.
From these images, it looks like they're fishing, probably targeting the same fish populations that we saw in Senegal, in direct competition with coastal communities. To search for super trawlers yourself, there are lots of options online, but we've been showing you a website called Marine Traffic. This episode, our creature of the week is the mighty manta, and here to tell us more about them is Dr. Andrea Marshall, joining from Mozambique. Hi.
Hi there.
First off, Andrea, what actually is a manta ray?
Well, manta rays are fish, but they're cartilaginous fish. So their skeleton is comprised of cartilage, not bone. So like the same stuff in your nose or in your ear. And that's what makes them so flexible and wonderful. But yeah, they're relatives of sharks, but instead of being kind of cylindrical, they're flat.
Flat sharks. Perfect.
Can you tell us about the very first time you had an encounter with a manta ray up close?
Yeah, I can actually remember the very moment, and I wasn't anticipating encountering one. I was actually doing work with sharks, and I felt something over my shoulder, and I looked back, and this thing was barreling at me down, just across the sand, and it looked like the biggest underwater bird I had ever seen. It was so graceful and so big, and it just blew my mind. I was gobsmacked. I could hardly even take a photo. It was just so beautiful. And I think I was about 16 or 17 at the time, but that moment, I think, helped define the rest of my career. I just thought to myself, what an incredible animal this is. I think the size of them really surprises people. I mean, they can get up to about 7 meters. I've seen 7-meter individuals in the wild. So you're talking about maybe like 21 feet or so, 22 feet. And it really does feel like some sort of alien spacecraft. You know, they can light out the sun when they go over you, and Luckily, they're very gentle giants. Otherwise, it would be incredibly intimidating because they're very, very large.
How do you distinguish different manta from other manta? How is it easy to tell them apart?
It's actually really fortunate because every single manta has like a different pattern of spots on its underside. It's very similar to like the human fingerprint. We call them belly prints because they're on the stomach. And luckily, you can actually really differentiate between different individuals really easily. So I can, all of the 1,000 mantas in our population here in Mozambique, I know by sight. Maybe not all of them around the world, but certainly the ones here in our population we can recognize.
Well, if you're going to recognize them, I have to ask, do you have any favorites?
Yeah, I do actually. I mean, one of the fun things about them is it's almost like the ink blot test where, you start to see different things in the spot patterns over time. So you can kind of name them accordingly. And I suppose my favorites are the ones that have, I suppose, the silliest names. We have Dracula. I have one that looks exactly like Homer Simpson's head. I have one that has a 5, a 0, and a bite mark out of it. So I called it 50 Cent. We have a lot of really fun mantas here.
That's incredible. So you know the manta locals in Mozambique pretty well, but how well-traveled are manta rays in general? Do they go very far afield from their homes?
Yeah, I know this population really well because I've been studying it for about 20 years. And part of wanting to learn more about this population led me to start finding out how far they travel. Do they stay in Mozambique all of the time, or are they traveling abroad? So we started using this really advanced technology, these like satellite tags, maybe 20 years ago before anyone else was really doing it. And you basically put these little tags on mantas. It tells you where they are every about 10 seconds. It takes all kinds of information about them around the water that they're swimming in, and you can reconstruct tracks and tell exactly where they go. And they go thousands and thousands of kilometers in different directions. And when we first started putting the tags on, we thought they were surface dwelling animals, and they started making dives of up to, over 1,000 meters from the surface. So they became overnight one of the deepest diving fish in the world as well. They are athletic animals that travel the world's oceans regularly. I mean, not across ocean basins, but they travel up and down continental coastlines and things like that.
Could you tell us what are the threats to mantas like this?
Yeah, unbelievably. I mean, these are such giant and gentle animals. Everyone that dives with them, they're great for tourism. You would think that everybody loves mantas, but unfortunately, just like the sharks, there's a huge trade for them. And in the case of a manta, they actually extract the gill plates in their mouths that they use to filter all of the little, plankton that lives in the water. And there's a trade for that in Asia. And so they're being harvested unsustainably around the world, and populations are crashing, so much so that they're really considered a threatened species globally now, or all of the species are considered threatened now. And there's also a lot of indirect fishing pressure. So people that may be fishing for something else like tuna, where they're captured incidentally. But there's a lot of other impacts to them too. We definitely think that climate change is going to play a role, and ocean acidification may impact their food supply in the future. But even just how we're developing coastlines, we're taking away all of the habitats they have along coastlines and replacing them with, cities and jetties and inlets and bays. And, so we're having a huge impact there as well. And also all the boat traffic. We're seeing a lot of boat strike injuries to the mantas as well. So there's all kinds of threats they face. And one of the newest cryptic threats is the impacts of microplastic, which we've just shown last year that mantas are actually ingesting this plastic and are probably impacting them in that way as well.
So we can see why we want to protect these animals. What can actually be done?
Well, we've been working really hard on that exact thing for the last 10 to 15 years. We've studied all kinds of aspects about them so that we can list them on the international conventions like CMS and CITES to prevent their trade. And now we're working country by country to try and protect them. We've actually are just about to announce in Mozambique now that they're formally protected now after about 20 years of lobbying efforts here. You take it country by country, but the most important thing about mantas and other large marine animals, whale sharks, things like that, is we have to create really large marine protected areas in order to provide enough protection for them, because they move around, as I told you before.
Thank you so much, Andrea. That was extremely enlightening.
You're absolutely welcome. It was a pleasure.
Now, it's not just the environment that suffers when illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing takes place. There's an increasingly terrible and human cost too.
In the high seas, far from scrutiny, some shocking human rights abuses are taking place. Poor migrant fishers from Southeast Asia are often drawn into modern-day slavery at sea. Here are some of their stories.
And just a warning that this video does contain images of human suffering that some viewers might find distressing.
Orang makan ikan tuna, sashimi yang harganya mahal, apakah berpikir ini dari mana? Bagaimana proses dan ada perbudakan ataupun pelanggaran ikan itu nyuri atau tidak? Nama saya Zainuddin dari Desa Demangharjo, Kabupaten Tegal. Di desa saya sendiri kebanyakan memang pekerja pelaut, entah ada yang lokal dan ada yang dibanyakan luar negeri. Karena berdasarkan pendapatan untuk bekerja di kapal lokal sangat kurang dalam penghasilan. Jadi lebih baik saya mencoba untuk bekerja di luar negeri. Saya berangkat bareng dari Pemalang itu ada 5 orang. Kita bekerja kan di satu kapal 15 orang. Kenapa yang kalau setiap ngisi umpan itu orang Indonesia yang suruh bekerja, bukan orang lain. Jam istirahat saya tidak dikasih makan. Saya tanya, maaf, di sini saya bekerja. Saya juga pengen waktu istirahat. Lihat yang lain tuh pada makan dan istirahat. Tolong saya minta istirahat dan makan. Habis itu saya ngamuk. Saya tendang pintunya. Bosnya datang. Saya tanya, saya minta pertanggungjawaban dari Anda. Anda memperkerjakan saya, berarti harus Anda berhak memberi makan saya. Ini jelas-jelas ini perbudakan, pemerasan. Tapi pemerintah tidak ada. Selama ini pemerintah siapa yang mau bertanggung jawab tentang ABK? Tidak ada yang jawab.
Kerja itu jam 12 siang sampai jam 4 sampai jam 5 lah itu baru selesai. Terus itu cari ikan tuna, ikan marlin, ikan hiu, tapi hiunya itu siripnya diambil, bajunya dibuang. Apapun ikannya pasti dibabat habis. Terus kadang-kadang waktu yang mau nyandar itu hiu, sirip, badan nggak dibuang. Soalnya mau sandar, pendapatan hiunya itu banyak, sampai berapa ton itu.
Kerjanya itu sampai minimalnya itu jam 6 pagi, jadi 12 jam itu belum dengan packing. Ya sekitar 15 sampai 18 jam itu. Itu berlangsung cukup lama ya untuk cumi itu karena memang pas musimnya. Tapi di hari berikutnya mulailah mencari ikan dengan jaring kan, dengan jaring. Itu tidak berlangsung lama, cuma 1 minggu. Kemudian mungkin dapat informasi dari kapal yang beroperasi. Ini cumi lagi banyak. Akhirnya beroperasilah cumi. Tidak bisa itu yang namanya troll itu bertahan lama, itu nggak bisa. Padahal di situ udah dijelaskan di PKL kita itu kapalnya kapal troll, kapal jaring. Jadi sang kapten itu memberikan sebuah kalimat bahwasanya kalian boleh istirahat ketika kalian itu sudah benar-benar tidak bisa jalan dan tangan kalian sudah tidak bisa bekerja. Itu statementnya seperti itu. Jadi sakit pun ya tetap aja suruh bekerja. Sama aja kita kerja rodi lah, masih kerja rodi itu di kapal. Terburuknya lagi adalah di kapal sebelah yang 355, Handrong 355, ketika terjadi kematian sebanyak 3 orang. Disebabkan oleh makan yang expired, itu dijelaskan oleh dokternya, makan yang expired, kemudian minum air yang tidak layak minum, itu kemudian dengan dalam jangka waktu yang lama, hampir 6 bulan kita itu minum dengan air embun yang keluar dari AC, bayangkan. Itu kita buat untuk masak, untuk minum, untuk mandi. Karena apa? Kita, ABK dari Indonesia dan Filipina itu dibatasi untuk pemakaian air bersih. Nah, kemudian selang 2 bulan, 1,5 bulan dia meninggal lagi tuh. Singkat ceritanya sama seperti itu, dibawa ke rumah sakit ketika sudah parah, sudah pingsan, sudah step di kapal, sudah sampai keluar busa. Ketika meninggal itu, si kapten kapal itu enak sekali ngomong dengan bahasanya dia. Gak apa-apa meninggal. Yang penting keluarganya itu dapat uang dari kami, seperti itu. Berapa harga nyawa yang bisa terbayarkan gitu loh dengan uang itu.
And joining us now from Jakarta is Greenpeace Oceans campaigner Arifcia Nasution. Hi, Arif.
Hi, Arif.
Hi.
The footage we just saw, Arif, was very shocking, and you've been working on a campaign to try and understand and investigate exactly what's going on. Can you tell us the extent of these abuses?
Yes, if you could imagine, in every oceans we have Indonesian migrant fishing crew working on board, yeah, either in the Taiwanese fishing vessel or maybe Chinese fishing vessel or maybe in European fishing vessel. So in our numbers, at least roughly there are 200,000 Indonesian fishers working abroad, and some of them, about 75%, is working on the fishing vessels.
And what makes Southeast Asia in particular such a hot spot for this kind of exploitation?
Yeah, there are two main points that actually we need to rely on. The first one is the environmental degradation also in our region. So because, if our environmental, maybe let's say coastal fisheries is being exploited so much, yeah, by the mining, also by pollutions, so there is less of job, yeah, less of fish that can be fished by our people, and then they need to face another reality. They need job, yeah, they need food, and then come up with some opportunity to working abroad.
Can you take us through the sort of timeline of people ending up on these boats? How do they get there?
The general pattern of this one is that they try to find the fisher from the small village, let's say in north of Java Islands. They spread the brokers, we call it, and the brokers try to find the fishers, yeah, and then they give them some promise. If you could join or working on the fishing vessel, you can be paid well, you can get well conditions, but all of those promises actually is not true, because most of them cannot get their paid salary, even maybe even written in the contract, but they don't get any salary payment in exact amount that already written in the contract. So it involves so many deceptions and also exploiting the vulnerabilities of those people, and then because they need a job, and then they just receive the job offer, but actually when they arrive in one boat or one in fishing vessel, they cannot escape anymore because they already in the boat. So I think that's situation, that's a common situation that we found based on some our investigation and also our interviews with the fishers. Yeah.
It seems from what you're saying that environmental justice and social justice are going hand in hand, and a strong global ocean treaty would help us respect both the ocean life and human life.
Yeah, it's very valid, because I think why we need a call, yeah, to a global high seas protection is not only because we want to save the whale, or to save the shark, or save our pristine ecosystem, but also is for our human beings. If we can ensure the ocean protection better in the high seas, we are also can do better in our coastal ecosystem. So I think it could go hand in hand, and we need to see this could be achieved, yeah, because if we ignore the social aspect of those high seas protection, I think we cannot answer the basic principle that we need to save our humanity.
Thank you so much, Arif.
Thank you, Arif.
Thank you so much.
And now it's time for Life on Board, and we are going on board the Esperanza to meet deckhand Victor.
We're the people of the ocean. I grew up running on white sandy beaches, fishing. My name is Victor Pickering, and I'm from the Fiji Islands. There was this moment that in university we had a Japanese lecturer who was trying to teach me all these knots. And then I told him, like, I'm not in for your knots, you know, because I'm not going to end up on a ship or all these things. And well, life turned and it ended up to be on a ship as a deckhand. I studied marine science, fisheries, marine resource management. I felt like I needed to do more for the ocean in terms of policing. So that was my main focus, because I saw the threats that was happening around me. So I joined the ships in 2013, so it's been quite a long time now. I've been old. The best part about it, you get to visit a lot of countries and see different people. You get to get inspired, you get to learn new things as well. Every country should protect their own ocean, because protecting your own ocean means protecting your people.
It's amazing Victor didn't think they'd end up on a ship because they've got incredible posture.
Yeah, good poise. I'd have fallen in.
And that's all we've got time for this week.
Remember that we need to put pressure on governments around the world to agree on a strong global ocean treaty at the UN. Check out the links below or above this video to find out how you can get involved.
We thought we'd leave you with the soothing sights and sounds of some of nature's best fishes, Atlantic grey seals. This was filmed this summer in the UK in the marine protected area of Lundy. Until next time, bye.
Bye.